So I'm here to present this work on information geometry for SSVEP classification, which is a work about cerebral interface. This is a joint work with Emmanuel Kalunga from TUT University in South Africa, and with Quentin Barthélémy in Mencia Technology in France. So first opening word, this is an unusual talk because there is not so much, this is an unusual talk because the topic is quite unusual and this is a very applicative paper. So I seized the opportunity to insist on the cerebral interface subject. That is, these interfaces have been used in rehabilitation and disability compensation. And right now they are in the process of finding some solution to obtain out of the lab solution and to apply these technologies to a wider population of subjects. But there is still problem and difficulties which are related to the variability of the human brain signal, which varies from for one subject. So this calls for online methods and adaptive algorithms, and also there is differences between brain signal from one user to another. So we need good algorithm with good generalization and fast convergence. And in a few years ago, Marco Congedo and Alexandre Barachant proposed a new generation of BCA based on Riemannian geometry and using covariance matrices, and this has grown big interest in the EEG community, which is quite large and with many available datasets. So this talk is really about how to convince you to apply your work and your ideas to this problem. So I will briefly introduce the brain interfaces, and I will explain why using tools from Riemannian geometry have done so, have allowed to obtain so good results. So when recording brain activity, it is possible to interpret it. So this opened the way for brain-computer interfaces, which rely on a non-muscular communication with lots of medical application. So depending on the scale of your recording, you could be at a neuron scale or at a neuronal group with electrocorticography or stereo electroencephalography, or at the brain level, so recording EEG, electroencephalography, or several other techniques like fMRI or tomography. The main interaction loop used in cerebral interface is the following. So we are recording and making some acquisition, and the brain signal are then pre-processed and translated into command, state, or different kind of orders, which could be used to display, adapt the environment of a user, and also to give him a feedback on what is on what the machine perceives. So why focus on electroencephalography? Electroencephalography mostly is very good at capturing brain waves, and there is lots of brain activity which are related with these brain waves. So also this is a lightweight system with low cost now, and this is a very mature technology. And in terms of temporal resolution, we could have very precise recording. So This is, and also it does not require to insert an electrode inside the brain, so it could be really used um, for a few minutes or a few hours. What are the EEG? What are we recording when we are seeing EEG? We are recording local field potential generated at the neuronal level between the dendrite, the place where the neuron received the information, and the body of the neuron. All of these are governed by Maxwell equation. We are even in a quasi-static approximation setup. And unfortunately, there is a real problem with volume conduction effect because of the brain skull, which is mixing all the signal from the neuronal sources. So the most used experimental paradigm for brain-computer interface are based on motor imagery. That is, you imagine a movement, like a hand movement, and you have a synchronization in one part of your brain and a desynchronization in another part. So that's what we are looking for. Or there are also lots of evoked responses, like low amplitude potential bump induced by a specific stimuli. So this talk focuses more on a steady state visually evoked potential, which are evoked potential generated by a visual stimulation that is a blinking light. So you focus on the blinking light, and your neurons in the visual area will synchronize with the frequency of the visual simulation. There is no learning required, and it's only based on on your capacity to orientate your visual attention. And this generates a strong and easily detectable signal. We have used these approaches in several experiments to control or to monitor the state of someone. So there is lots of limitation when dealing with brain-computer interface. The first is the scarcity of the data. That is, there is only a few sources active at a given moment, and they are mixed on all the electrodes. And also, there is all the variability at the individual level, which could be affected by fatigue, or at the session level between recordings due to variation in electronic devices or the positioning of electrode, and across individual, where there is still some unexplained failure for 1 person over 5. With state-of-the-art approaches. So the desired properties for a nice brain-computer interface is to have an online signal, an online system which adapts to the variation of one user, and no calibration phase. And also to be able to make some transfer learning study, that is using data from one subject to be able to reconnect the brain signal from another subject. So why use some covariance matrices and Riemannian geometry to process this brain signal? Common approaches using spatial filters, which are very effective on clean data sets, and which are specific to each user and each session. So you train your spatial filters each time you need to make a recording. And also, there is several steps in processing, and including feature selection. So there is always a risk of overfit or miss some important information. So working with covariance matrix has proven to provide some very good generalization across subjects. There is lots of algorithm available with fast convergence, even online algorithm, and very effective implementation, as you know. So what are we doing with this EEG signal? An EEG signal is just several acquisition sample on different electrodes, and we are computing covariance matrices on spatial. We are computing covariance matrices on this signal, and the idea is to extract the mean of these covariance matrices, of a set of covariance matrices, and to make the hypothesis that one brain state is represented by the mean of all the covariances associated with the recording during this state. So it's possible to do some classification based on those means, and the question is how to obtain a robust and efficient algorithm. And as it turned out, one of the most simple algorithm is really performing very well and attaining state-of-the-art results. That is a minimum distance classifier. So each time you compute all the center of the classes of your signal, and each time you have a new sample, so new covariance matrices, you just affect these matrices to this sample to the nearest class, the nearest center of class. It's really working well. So there is a visualization of one subject, whose gaze is focusing on several LEDs. So at first is resting, so in blue, then is gazing toward the 21 Hertz blinking LED, and after on the 17 Hertz, and then on the 13. So you could see all the trajectories followed by his signal, and it's quite robust. But still, to compute the mean, it's really important to remove outlier and to focus only on most important and representative data. So as this is very applicative, very applicative work, we are trying to remove outliers and artifact. And a very simple algorithm called Riemannian potato is to reject any element which lie too far from the mean of all trial. So you could, like that, just put apart all the sample which seems not normal or like outliers. So this is there is two visualization using directly matrices obtained during an experiment, and after Riemannian potato filtering. So the main information about Riemannian approaches in brain-computer interface is that in several cases they achieve state-of-the-art results, and they have as good results as spatial filtering with several elements and lots of specialization, user-specific parametrization, and also on all method working directly in the sensor space. And also they rely on really a simpler algorithm, so they are less error prone and computationally computationally efficient, which is really a desirable property because in the end, we want to embed this method on on a embedded device and small chips. So if we try to explain the reason of this success, I think it lies with the invariances embedded within Riemannian distances, which offer invariance to rescaling, normalization, whitening of data, and also invariance to electrode permutation or electrode positioning. So it's really interesting to look at that on that side. Also, one of the main open question is what are the most desirable invariances for EEG? So in the paper, we propose an analysis using several metrics and distance and divergence, and to study what are their impact. So what are their impact on the results, and using the simple algorithm I showed you, that is the minimum distance to Riemannian mean. Using this, two interesting facts comes out. The first is when using Euclidean distance, it yields the lowest results, certainly because there is a problem about the inversion under invariance under inversion that is not guaranteed, and also there is a swelling effect when using Euclidean distance. And another remarkable fact is that Riemannian approaches using any metrics are outperforming state-of-the-art method that is using canonical correlation analysis and super vector machine. So it's very efficient. One of the most efficient metric divergence is the alpha divergence, but which require to find the optimal alpha value, and the Bhattacharya as the most the lower computational cost for the best accuracy. So in just a word of conclusion, using covariance matrices in brain-computer interface allows to achieve very good results, very competitive results. Even simple algorithms are really working well, and there is a real need in the community for new method and for to attack several difficult problems. So you may consider brain-computer interfaces as application for your work, or if you have some ideas, because there is lots of available dataset. There is several competition. Some dataset are simple, so some are much more difficult, and there is many tools for manipulating and assessing this electroencephalogram. And there is challenging open question to address, like electrodes misplacement, missing data, problem with the lower rank of covariance matrix, and the individual variability. So that's all. Thank you very much.